welcome to Flory Models Daily Vlog here on Monday 8th of February 2016, and today, to be honest, I've been doing that. Okay, so down in there it's still a little bit wet and all the rest of it, but we've actually got the first three stages, I would say. So we've got priming, we've done the pre-shading, and then the first coat for the actual sand colour onto the actual Terminator. That's what's up on the site now. To be honest, you're bang up to date with that one. And we talk about black coats. I know there's a lot of it been said, and I know the guys who use it will stand by it, but it seems to be a bit of a thing to do now where everyone paints everything black and then they go in with mottling and doing all this thing. And to be honest, I've seen guys do it and they do it really well and then ruin it because they just go over the top and go too far with it and they lose all that beautiful effect they've had, where that's great, but doing all the sort of the marbling effect and the various way of mottling and breaking it up, the paintwork to make it look right and to give that shadowing, I can do in there in 10 minutes instead of flapping around for hours on end and all the rest of it. That's what I try and show you on my site and on my channel and all the various bits and pieces, is the easiest way to do things. And obviously I'm not saying the other way's wrong, because, you know, we've done it that way in the past and various things, and if you wanted me, I'll show you how to do it and all the rest of it, but I try and show you the easiest way. I'm showing you from my point of view as a, I wouldn't say professional builder, but I do it for a living, and it is, you know, I've been doing commission work for near on 25 years now, and all the rest of it. So from that point of view, when I'm doing commission work, obviously time is money, so I tend to show you that way of building. Okay, so you can take it from the point of view of saying, right, okay, well, that's the quickest way to do it. Then there's lots of other ways of doing it as well, obviously, and there is no wrong way to everything. If you're happy doing it with the black primer way and all the rest of it, then fair play, go for your life with it. It's not to say it doesn't have its place, as I say, because quite frankly, when we're going to do the airliners, because it's white, I'm a great believer in having black underneath a white coat of paint. The reason for doing that, especially with plastic and styrene, because it's quite thin and all the rest of it, it gives it a solid look. So instead of it looking just white and getting that creamy type of white with it, you get a solid white. Okay, and that's what you want it to do, because it gives a better scale effect. So I'm not saying it's wrong, I just think in its place. Okay, so from my point of view with armour and normal aircraft day to day, then that's different. But we say when we're going to be doing the airliners, and we're shortly going to be starting on the 787 and the 747-800 series, those ones I'm going to do with the black Stynel res right the way over, because it has a nice solid look to it. Anyway, that is up on the site now. You can go off and see it in that one and make your way through with that. To be honest, here we are. Look, it's like Top Gun. So he comes in from the right. As you can see, my sander has turned up, which you can't see. I'll give you a run round tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be doing a little bit of the Arsfield series is going to return, and I'll show you all about that one. But I'll tell you what, this is a classic example, because if I was getting here with a sander, it would take forever. But with my new Wonder sander back there, you just put it on the machine, spin it round, took off 1mm all the way round, so now this is 9mm. So, you know, actually I think it's a 12mm acrylic tube, so we went down to 10 so it fit up the exhaust. Fantastic. So what I'm going to show hopefully Wednesday is bending. Okay, so we've already got down here, and to be honest, I've already pre-drilled the hole in the back here. This is going to go in, it's going to be a little bit shorter, and then I'm going to bend it round. So it's going to come out the back and then bend up, and then I'm probably going to have this at some type of angle so it looks like it's in high energy. So it's going to look something like that. So it'll be on its base, and then this will curve around and go in the back, probably at an angle, just so you can obviously turn it around and look underneath or on top, whichever way you want to see it. But generally, two ways of doing it. Obviously pop it in the oven, we've covered before. This way I'm probably going to show you with a heat gun. I'm going to roll it on a heat gun and try and bend it manually, which is something I haven't done before, but it must be quicker than putting it in the oven and trying to do it. So yeah, we need to cut this to length, get this one mounted up, but I'll show you that on Wednesday. Part, I think it's 3 on this particular build is already up, so it'll be the next part after that, but it should be quite a bit of fun. So that one's up for you, coming up very, very soon. We're going to be starting on the Splinter camo with that one tomorrow. I've got a confession. One of my computers upstairs, which if you saw the tour, it coughed on me, and you know that thing when you have your back of your mind that it's going to die at some point, and I'm not too sure what it is, but it's hanging continuously, and the graphics drivers are flat intermittent, saying it keeps recovering, black screens, and then it comes back. So tomorrow it's going to back up fully, which I usually do a weekly backup. So usually it's a bit like doing maintenance on my compressor on the tank, never gets done. But I am currently doing one system at the moment, and then I'm going to do another one. So they're going to be backed up down to the other computer that's down here and to external drive system that we've got up there as well. So it's going to be a bit of a problem because I can't edit. So I'm going to back everything up. Everything is to be nice, and that's it. It doesn't matter if it coughs, I can do it on this computer and all the rest of it. And then it might get an upgrade upstairs because that computer has been rendering every day of its life for the last 6 years. And when it was a high-end PC, it's now not now. It's more like a server because it's got all the drives in it and all the rest of it. And I think it's collapsing under its own weight. And as I say, rendering, if you guys know, it basically means your processor and your graphics card processor, the GPU and the CPU, run at 100%. And you think, a half an hour show takes 2 hours to render. So, you know, it's constantly blowing its brains out. So I'm thinking it's going to die at some point. So I think we might need to invest in a new one up there. But that's something we'll look at in the future. But generally it should be time to back everything up, make sure we've got everything in place, and that way if it does cough we can just flick over to another machine. So tomorrow that's what it will be doing, so no editing tomorrow. Anyway, a couple of things I want to speak about. First of all, thank you for all the feedback that I had last week on what you'd like to see on the standalone tutorials. Obviously, the sander one is up now. Remember, if you want it without the adverts, just go in the tutorial area. There's a section that's still there from the old days called sanding and filling, and it's in there. All right, so that's the one without the adverts all over it. All right. But I've basically done a list here of the primary ones we're going to do for the new tutorial area, and I'm going to run through with you what I'm planning on putting into them. That way you guys can give me your feedback today, and then obviously before I start on these I can sort of implement them in what it's going to be. So first up we've got filling, okay, because we've done sanding. So filling's your next natural progression. We've already got gluing up there, and I think gluing, you know, at the end of the day, there's only so many ways I can show you different glues and different techniques. That one's probably okay and can stand. So anyway, we're going to be talking with filling, the types of filler. So obviously we're going to be covering your CA filler, your green and white, your standard putties you get with everybody makes, you know, those types of things. Milliput as in 2-part epoxy putties and where we use them. The white, you know, water-based putties, Creative I think did it, or Seen, whichever one it is, that one that we use quite a lot. And then obviously styrene putty, you know, obviously making up your own and various ways of doing it like that. And then the uses for it. So then we'll be going on to obviously doing seam lines, so, you know, little seam lines where you've got bad joints, things like that, using it in there, gaps, and then obviously large jobs as well. So when I say a large job, we mean things like, I've got one down here which I will finish it off on this. Like classic example is doing something like that. This is an old kit. This is for a friend of ours who worked on them. It's a sort of a family thing. But basically, it didn't have any doors. They had broken off and gone a long time ago. So what I've done is I filled, smoothed, and then I'll rescribe in here the entire wheel well, because it was quicker to do that than it was to do it any other way. So it's got a load of rubbish thrown in there to backfill it, and then we've very nicely smoothed over the top of it. So then we can come in now and rescribe the door system into it. So that's doing like giant jobs with it. The application, so obviously how to put it down. Alright, so looking at the tools of it going down there and all the bits and that. Drying time, so obviously, you know, something like this would take probably a week to go off because it's so thick and heavy, versus something like styrene takes literally 10-20 minutes, depending obviously on the thickness and everything else like that. And then removal, and we're saying about removal is like sanding it off, because obviously you can sand some of them, you can use water-based products to take them off, you can use lacquer-based products to take off things like green putty and different styrenes and things like that. So, you know, basically in intakes, you know, the cotton ball wool trick. So we go in there with a little bit of cotton wool bud and we give it a white brand, and we can get almost seamless in there and things like that. So we'll be looking at that as well. So that's what we're planning on with the filling. And then obviously when we're moving on to things like rescribing, we'll be looking at obviously all the different tools. So everything from needle vice ones, P cutters, the trumpeter version, the UMM one, the Holly one, dental tools, and then rescribing, putting in new lines, taking out old raised ones and replacing. How to use it, so obviously, you know, I always say pull, don't push down, no pressure. Okay, lines, curves and circles. Alright, so it'll be all things like that. So yeah, I'm quite good, I've got this all written down. Priming, and then obviously we're going to be talking when we get onto that one, it'll be things about types of different primers. Obviously we'll be covering the enamel based primers that are out there, things like Mr. Surfacer, the lacquer based ones, things like that. Polyurethane, I tell you what, that's a problem. Unless I can find some of the old ones, because I threw them all out. Oh god, that's actually, I've shot myself in the foot there. I might have to buy one just to demo how bad it is before I throw it away again. Right, okay, anyway. Then we'll be looking at obviously acrylic primers, stynol res, and then just using paint as primer and all the rest of it. The colours, so again, what we were talking about earlier, so it would be obviously things like when we use the black. When's it time to use a black primer? When's it time to use a yellow, a green, and obviously all the different colours that we can get out there. Application, obviously putting it down using laser nozzles, we'll be talking about what the primers do. So we'll be covering things like obviously, as I call it, seam checking. You can see everything that's going to happen before your paint goes down, but also its purpose is to give a finish that the paint will stick to easier and things like that. Looking for faults, which is there, and glossing. When do you use a gloss primer versus a normal satin finish primer and things like that. And then my little list goes on, but we're probably not going to be this far ahead, because obviously then we're going to be moving on to deckling, washes, dry brushing, tripping, streaking, rust effects, and then we'll be looking at detailing. And in the detail section I'm going to get, which I have already got to be honest, I've got a couple of cockpits down there so we can show resin cockpits, working with resin detailing, photo etch ones as well, so we'll be looking at those. I've got some wheel wells in there. I've got an F16 wheel well and I've got a MiG 23mm wheel well, so I can show you about that one. And I've got a couple of engines down there, so I've got some big 30-second Phantom exhausts, plus about I could always pull the engine out, the A10, got beautiful resin engines in there, and anybody else's engine we want to work on to show you like that. With that, I think we've got enough to cover all the basics of the tutorial set. So that then means that, you know, I don't have to show in depth about filling, sanding, gluing and all those areas. So when we're doing the builds now, we can push through a little bit quicker, skip some of the long boring bits and all the rest of it, and we can move on with more the, you know, problem areas. So if there's a kit got a particular problem and a fault, we can show how I've actually fixed it in depth, okay? And then with the painting as well, so we can move on to things like painting, weathering and areas like that, which obviously are a little bit more problematic. But if we cover the basics, hopefully you can then go through those and pick up a few tips and tricks and things like that and be a little bit better. But as I say, if you think of something, shout, and I'm quite happy to add it to the list. All right, so if you think, hold on, you need to do a separate thing on this area, then obviously I will then do a separate one on it. The plan is to do at least one a week. I'd like to do one a week, so I'm going to try and do one tomorrow. I want to do the, obviously on this guy, it's going to be in splinter camo, so it's going to take some time to do that. So I'm thinking in between that in the spray booth, I can do one here or on the other bench, and then that way there can be sort of a rolling thing. So tomorrow we can obviously look at, you know, filling, things like that, as we make our way through. So yeah, that's the thing with that. Tomorrow marks the return of Ask Phil, so that's Tuesday's show is going to be back to doing Ask Phil. This isn't going to replace the obviously the full live show, because that's going to be on the first Tuesday of every month with all the guys, but obviously this is back to me doing your questions. So if you have got any, stick it in the Ask Phil section down in the team one, so you can just in there is some in there and I have answered them, but what I'll do is also I'll recap as well so non-members can see about it. And there were some questions down there, I haven't actually avoided them, it's just that it's going to be easier to show you. So one of the questions was about modern US colours for aircraft and that, what do I recommend? So what I'm going to do is I've got some sets in there, some paints to show you, and I can talk you through them and why and when I use them opposed to other people's and things like that. So I just thought it'd be easier to show you than it is on those, and then what I'll do is obviously I'll link that video into my answer in the forum and everything else. But if you have got a question specific to me, the builds that's going on, what you'd like to see, all the usual bits and pieces with me personally, then post it up down in the Ask Phil section, and I'll probably start recording it around about 2 o'clock. So make sure you get your questions in nice and early, and then obviously that will go up as a recorded show, because then I can have overhead cameras and show you in detail and all the bits and pieces, just as we're doing here today. So there we go, that's it for today. Happy modelling, take care.